be tempted to take Ja Morant also. But again, look at Ja Morant's fit. If we do sign Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant then becomes a lot less valuable for you. So I think Barrett is a guy, not only does he fit what the Knicks roster could look like, because again, the Knicks could sign nobody and none of this will really make a difference. And we'll be a 12-win team again next year and have some young players to build around and be picking in the lottery and worrying about who the best player is next year. But if they do sign the guys, which again, a lot of reports are saying, hey, done deal, Durant, Kyrie, sign them up. I'm looking at that roster and saying R.J. Barrett slides right in there where you have Dennis Smith Jr. Coming off the bench. You have Kyrie, you have Barrett, you have Knox, Durant, Mitchell Robinson. That's your starting lineup with Smith, Frank, Dotson, Cornette, a couple veterans off the bench, and away you go. So he fits there. I also think that his game of everybody in this draft is the most pro-ready. I think it has the biggest upside of all these guys because Zion, for as much as everyone loves him, what is his upside? I mean, is he going to average 30 points a game? I don't see that without the lack of a jump shot. Is he going to average 15 rebounds a game? I don't see that. I think Zion's upside's probably kind of in the arena of like 18 points, 11 rebounds a game, maybe a block. But again, he's not going to be able to play the same game. So there's going to be an adjustment period there for him. And if he turns into a Draymond Green type of player, that's a winning basketball player. But for the number 1 overall pick, it's not good enough. If he turns into Blake Griffin, hey, you know what? That's probably worthy of a top pick. Blake Griffin's had a hell of a career. He's not a guy that's ever won because his style of play not conducive to winning. And Blake Griffin's a hell of a basketball player. Hell of a basketball player. But Blake Griffin's also taller. And he's not one of the tallest guys. He's taller than Zion by a couple inches. So every guy that Zion's going up against next year, and obviously moving forward, is going to be taller than him because he's going to have to play the 4 or 5 position. And guys are just as quick. And guys, you know what? They might not be as heavy as him, but they're going to be as strong. These are grown men now. So it's going to take Zion a little bit, I think, to figure out where he fits in the NBA. And I do not see him being, the next LeBron or one of these guys. I think Zion is going to be a good player. I think Zion's going to be an exciting player. I think if Zion gets the right guys around him, he really can, pop. But I think that's going to take a lot. And honestly, the best comparison, Charles Barkley, Blake Griffin, these guys, I think the best comparison to Zion Williamson is Kenyon Martin. If you guys remember those Nets teams that made the finals. But Kenyon Martin was the number 1 overall pick out of Cincinnati. Great leaping ability, strong-bodied, but kind of lacked the rest of the game. But when he hooked up with Jason Kidd, he really was something. So I think that's what it's going to take for Zion. I don't think Zion by himself is going to be a megastar, but I think if Zion hooks up with the right point guard in the right system, I really think, again, he could have a big impact and be on winning teams. But I don't think he's a guy that you're going to say, he's my number 1. Just like Kenyon Martin, nobody looked at him as a number 1 player. He was a good player, really good player, winning team. But nobody would have said, hey, yeah, Kenyon Martin's a superstar by any means. So that's where I feel on Zion. And again, I think it's a real benefit that we did not get the number 1 pick. I would have liked the number 2 pick because then we could have had the choice of Barrett or Morant, which without another team obviously snagging Barrett, and I could have just taken Barrett number 2 and not had to worry about it. At this point, we have to worry about that. But again, if we end up with Ja Morant, to me, I already said kind of his upside, which I think him and Zion are kind of in similar positions because they're both going to have to figure out the NBA. They're both going to have to adjust their style. And I think that's going to take a while. So for a team that, like the Knicks, who are going to sign possibly Durant and Kyrie Irving and be ready to win right away, I don't know, guy 2-3 years down the road might be a really good player, but he's going to have some real growing pains. I don't know if that's the best case scenario. Now, it might be short-sighted, But I truly believe that R.J. Barrett could start from day one on a championship-level team and contribute. He's not going to be a 25-point scorer right away, but he's going to be a guy that's going to stand there, knock down shots, make plays. You're going to have to account for him. He plays defense, tough kid. Sign me up. So I hope that's how the draft goes for the Knicks, if we keep the pick. Because plan A for me, and this has been plan A all along, Anthony Davis is the goal. If we got the number one pick, that obviously would have made it a lot easier to deal with New Orleans, because I think they really wanted Zion, and they end up getting him anyway. But I would love to add Anthony Davis to this roster. Because with Anthony Davis, if you move the right pieces, you could also sign, Durant and Kyrie anyway, and then have a big three, really like no other. And in all honesty, Anthony Davis, I've heard a million people comment on Anthony Davis, and I'm just going to tell you, not one of you watch Anthony Davis night in, night out. I watch Anthony Davis. I'm a big fantasy sports player, and I take it to a level where I buy NBA League Pass to watch every game. I buy MLB Extra Innings to watch every game. So I watch these guys night in and night out. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I watched Anthony Davis and the New Orleans Pelicans for the last 2 years. 2 years ago, I had DeMarcus Cousins on my team. Saw every Anthony Davis game. Last year, I had Anthony Davis on my team. Watched every game until obviously the end there where they started messing around with him. Anthony Davis does get nicked up a lot. He does go to the locker room constantly. I don't know if he's just kind of built in an odd way, but he goes to the locker room, he comes out. So he scares you more than he actually misses time. Because the last 2 years, last year, just throw it out, because he was perfectly healthy, had a little bit of an issue there with his finger for about a week or so, but he would have been on pace to play 70-plus games again. The 2 years prior to last year, 75 games and 75 games. I bet you if you ask 10 people on the street who say they follow the NBA, they would have not have guessed that Anthony Davis played 75 and 75 games 2 years in a row. Because everyone just says, he gets hurt all the time. He does get hurt all the time. He gets hurt like every game. But he goes to the locker room for 5 minutes, comes out, and he plays. So I don't know what that is, but that is something that is kind of odd about him. However, when he's on that basketball court, I cannot name more than 4 to 5 players, maybe not even that many, who I would rather build my team around. Number one, guy's 25 going on 26. Youth is on his side. Number two, the numbers that he puts up are ridiculous. 28 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, 2.5 blocks, on 50% shooting and 80% shooting from the foul line. You go find me a player in the history of basketball who has that kind of a stat line. And that's what he was averaging last year before they messed with his minutes. And the year before that and the year before that, he had very similar numbers. His numbers are actually getting better as he gets older. He could shoot the ball outside, inside. He could post up and play it down low in the post for you. He could play foul line extended for you and play the high-low game with another big. He showed that he could do that with DeMarcus Cousins. They got along great. He could take over the game offensively. He could take over the game defensively. The length that this guy has and his lateral movement is absurd for a big guy. Really, one of the only guys in the NBA that has similar attributes to him on the defensive side is Mitchell Robinson, who's already on the Knicks, where he could get out, guard the three-point line, contest shots, block shots from out there, stay down low, protect the rim, play pick-and-roll defense. All of these things are winning basketball. So everyone says, well, Anthony Davis, he's never won. Number one, he came in as the number one pick. So obviously New Orleans was not a good organization. They're a shitty run organization to begin with. He's never had a real team around him. Drew Holiday's a nice player. Great. Last year, when they did have a real team, they were playing good basketball with DeMarcus Cousins and Holiday and Davis. And they made the playoffs. Cousins obviously got hurt, so he missed half the year in the playoffs. And they beat the Blazers without DeMarcus Cousins, who are now playing in the Western Conference Finals right now. They swept them. Goodbye. So to say Anthony Davis never won, well, he has won when their right players were around him, and he's won in the playoffs. He has a one-round, victory in the playoffs. Not a huge sampling size, but again, it's not like he's 30 years old. He's 25. He's been in a bad organization his whole life. Never had real players around him. Never had a real wing player, ever. Etwan Moore. I mean, come on. So you put that guy with other star players or even other really good players, that's a championship level team. He's that good. So anyone who says, well, I don't want to trade the pick, guess what? If Anthony Davis was in this draft, he'd be going number one. It wouldn't even be a question. Not even a debate. He's that much better than the players in this draft. He's that much better than most of the players in the NBA right now. And again, he's young. He's a free agent at the end of next season. Granted, so obviously you're going to trade for him with some risk that, hey, maybe he doesn't sign there. But if the Knicks put together a team around him, why would he leave? So here's what I would do. I would offer them the number 3 pick. I'd offer them Kevin Knox. And I'd offer them a couple future first-round picks. And that would be my offer. I don't want to trade Mitchell Robinson because I want Mitchell and Anthony Davis on that back line with a Kevin Durant and a Kyrie Irving. That's my dream team, my dream scenario. If they say we want Mitchell Robinson, I'm going to think long and hard about it, but I don't want to trade Mitchell Robinson because, A, his salary, he's only getting $1 million over the next 2 years, so you need fillers like that. And when you get a guy who could be Defensive Player of the Year making $1 million when you're maxed out on the cap, that's extremely valuable. And the fact is, the combination of Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, and Mitchell Robinson in terms of length, size, and lateral quickness, I mean, we're going to have one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. I mean, just having Mitchell Robinson standing back there already gives you a top 15 defense without anybody else. Throwing Anthony Davis and Durant with their length, shot blocking ability, bothering jump shots, I mean, that's lights out defense. And obviously offensively, the combination of Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, I mean, it's just scary to think about because every single one of those guys can do everything with the basketball. They all can shoot. They could all drive. They could all basically set up the other guys. It just would be an unstoppable team. And I think that's where we're heading. So all the Knicks fans out there that were depressed last night, throwing things, going crazy, trust me when I say this, next year, when we're in, June or May next year, and the Knicks are in the playoffs, and hopefully we have Durant and Kyrie, and we have a guy like R.J. Barrett who is dominating compared to what Zion and John Morant are doing out there, we're all going to be very happy. We're all going to look at this draft and say, you know what? Thank God that we did not get the number 1 overall pick and put all our chips in the Zion Williamson basket, because nothing against Zion. I just do not think that he is a number 1 caliber player on a championship team. He could be the number 1 on a bad team. He could probably put up some good numbers. But in all honesty, R.J. Barrett, I think, has the most upside. And I think he has the most NBA pro-ready game right now. And I think he fits the Knicks the best. So let's hope that the Grizzlies take Morant, Williamson's off the board, and we end up with R.J. Barrett. But obviously, the best case scenario will be if we trade that pick with, let's say, Kevin Knox and, like I said, 2 future first-rounders and end up with Anthony Davis going into, free agency there, and then basically just get out the champagne because the Knicks are having a championship run. So everybody enjoy, everybody relax, and like my grandfather said, wait a while, because at the end of the day, everything's going to work out for us. Have a good night, guys.